Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christina Osborne with ISO Stakeholder Affairs, and I'd like to welcome you to the ADS Customer Partnership Group call. The purpose of this call is to go over the ADS deployment and cutover plan. We do have a number of ISO representatives on the phone. First, I'll start with our speakers. We have Akam Furtis and Prince Philip. They're actually going to be presenting. And then also we have Jamie Hergus, Ginger Quintavala, Diana Adesami, Gina Wanzer, and Trang Vo. They're on the line for support. We did post this presentation. We actually posted an updated version yesterday, not too much as far as the content change. There were just some minor tweaks to it, but we did post it out on the Customer Partnership Group page, so you can find that. You go to the Stay Informed tab, select Meetings and Events, and on that page, you'll see Customer Partnership Groups. So you'll find the presentation out there. We are also recording the call today. We do post those for stakeholder convenience so that you can go back and listen to the meeting, especially if you know of somebody who wasn't able to participate. That will be available to you. We just ask that before you, if you post the recording or reprint it, that you contact the ISO for permission first. So we will take questions. You know, we are scheduled for 2 hours. We're going to pause in the middle, take questions, and then we'll take questions again at the end. And so we'll try to address everybody's questions in a timely manner and hopefully get you out by 3:30. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Furtis. And Furtis, your line may be muted. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Hi, thank you, Christina. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So today our main focus is to cover the new areas deployment plan and the cutover for the old areas plan. We'll be also touch base with some other information what we have been already communicated earlier. So we'll start with the preparation items for accessing the new areas, which will include your certificate and ACL group as well as the provisioning. And then once you are accessing the new areas, how many active sessions you can have for each environment per user, and the certificate combination. We'll be also covering at a high level all the API changes. Then based on some of the feedback, we updated our B8 artifacts. We'll also provide some detailed insight about it. And then we'll cover all of our the events and timeline for all three environments. For market simulation, it will be happening in mass stage, and parallel operation in stage and production deployment. And finally, we'll be doing also sharing the date for hard cutover of our current ADS, which is the ADS Delphi client, and the ADS API B6. And at the end, we'll be also taking two more slides for query tool data retention as well as the stage preview. Thank you, Christina. So for preparation item to access the new areas, as we have been communicating earlier in several forums, so please make sure you have your existing area certificate installed on supported browser. It's either Chrome or Edge with Chromium. As you will be very busy with these areas, starting from the market simulation, then parallel operation, and then before going to the production. So it is really encouraging, and I'd like to request, please check your expiration date of the certificate if it is going to expire soon. So you should have a plan to renew in place. Then for the ADS ACL group, our client rep has a separate session for this, and it was communicated very clearly. And we're just trying to give you another touch base with there. So for current ADS ACL group, we will not be supporting in the new tool. So all ADS user who has current ADS ACL group, please make sure you created your ACL group in AIM for each environment separately. As you know, for market simulation, it should be for map stage environment, and parallel operation for stage environment, and for production. And creating the ADS ACL group in AIM will not be sufficient until you provision them for that user. So please make sure you work with your UA and to have proper access for all environment for each of those ACL groups. And other than that, all other ADS users who had access to the SPID level will work as is, no other changes is required. Christina, can you please go to the next slide? So for accessing new ADS, new ADS will be accessible from the ISO Market Participant Portal, as well as it will be also available from our splash page. As you know that our MPP portal and MPP portal as well as the splash page portal URL is different for each environment. So for your convenience, we're providing here all those URL here again. So right now, if you have access to any of this environment, once you log in, you see the different application. What you have access is listed there. So ADS will be also the another one which will be listed, and you will be able to access the ADS application from that link. One thing to note here, Christina, yeah, thanks. So one thing to note here that in the browser, as you will be using your browser for accessing new ADS, and you can only have one active session for that user or the certificate and the environment combination. So having said that, if you are trying to use the same user and certificate and the browser combination for accessing the new ADS from multiple environments, like you can access it from the stage and mass stage and production simultaneously. So in that sense, so you can have only one active session per user, certificate, and environment combination. So with that, you will be also, if you are using, as we will be supporting our old client at the same time until the hard cutover date, you will be also able to use the same user for old client as well. So this one active session is mainly for the web-based client, our new client. You can have only one active session per user, certificate, and environment combination. Christina, can you please go to the next one? Thank you. So this is our one of the main point what we are trying to communicate today is the market simulation and its timeline. So for market simulation, this environment will be available starting from July 27th, and it will be there available until this September 4th. And again, please also make sure that for any of these dates and everything, please follow the RAG. If there is any information is changes, so for latest information, we always request you to be attending the RAG and get the latest information. So for market simulation, as you know, we are always using our mass stage environment for the simulation. So here is no different. It will be a mass stage environment for the simulation. And during the simulation, we will be covering all the structured scenarios pertaining to the all ADS project, not only limited to the ADS replacement project. It will also cover the dispatch operating target tariff clarification along with inter-day deviation settlements. For all the structured scenarios, you can find it in our externally posted document. For your user convenience, we also copied the URL here. And I think there was a deadline for submitting all of your prepared, all of your test data for each structured scenarios, I think July 3rd. So if you haven't communicated our market sim inbox for any of this data setup, please feel free to do so at your earliest convenience. So our market sim coordinator can see how much we can support from that perspective if you haven't sent this information already. And for exit criteria from the market simulation, we'll be following our standard procedure, and that can be found in that link as well. Christina, can you please move on to the next slide?
So let's go ahead and pause for questions, Curtis. So if anybody has a question, you can raise your hand by pressing #2. And let me know, Victor, if anybody enters the queue.
I don't see any. Oh, here we go. We have one question.
Huh?
Go ahead. Caller, please state your name and question.
Hi, my name is Ray, and I'm calling from PG&E. So initially, Kaiso said that the application preview for the stage environment for the new ADS would start July 7th. So during Market Sim, are we not going to be able to use the stage environment at all for any testing for the new ADS UI based on this slide?
Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead, please.
Hey, this is Prince here. We actually have a slide towards the tail end of the presentation as well, but let's briefly touch on it because you raised it here. We've been looking at that, and then what we figured was it probably made sense for us to give you the combination of the DOT, the IDS, and the ADS replacement new UI all in a single bundle coming into the Market Sim timeframe, so that you didn't have to first look at just the UI and then come back in again and familiarize yourself with the new changes and so on. But to strictly address your question itself, yes, well, we have the Market Sim going on. A stage itself will not be available. And as Ferdos walks through the timeline, you'll see that once we wrap up market simulation is when we will use the exit criteria of market simulation as partly the entry criteria into our stage environment for parallel operations and so on.
Just to follow up on that, Prince, I know that, so I did briefly look at the presentation and it addresses that, but shouldn't, since we are, going over a new ADS UI, shouldn't it be part of the market sim testing? I mean, you're basically cutting the window, right, from July 7th to all the way up to October 1st, but now you're only saying it's going to be available from September 1st to September 31st or September 30th. So isn't that taking away some of the timing for training, validation?
Right. So when we provide the new UI in market simulation effective on the 27th onwards, you will have that. You are right in the fact that you did lose between July 7th through July 27th. So you did lose 20 calendar days. But when you see this in the market simulation environment in map stage on 7/27, that code base will have the new UI with the additional functionality like we were talking about for DOTT as well as IDS on it. So you didn't really lose 2 months. You lost 20 calendar days. Does that help?
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is Jamie. Thank you, Chris, for covering that. I think we're also looking for feedback here today on what schedule will work for people. This is what we've landed on, given the confluence of all these different projects coming together and the overall fall release timeline and aligning to that. But definitely, if there's something here that you have feedback for us on, go ahead and you can state that now or submit it to us in a city ticket afterward.
We do have one more question here.
Thank you.
Caller, please state your name and question.
Caller, your line may be manually muted on your end. We can't hear your question. We did get a chat question from Derek Wong asking if the active session times out after a period of time. Did you guys hear me?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, active session will not time out. It will be active because as the new data will be processing automatically, so it will not time out.
Great, thank you. All right, I think that's all the questions we have in the queue. So if you want to keep going, Ferdos.
Ferdos,
slide 6. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ferdos, just to clarify on that last question, can you confirm If the user behavior is they've logged into the new ADS, they've just left the screen open, will the session time out at all? So I understand it's processing data behind the scenes, but the user is not actively interacting with the system.
Yes, Prince. I think it will not time out. We'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe we had a special consideration around ADS as a use case because normally in our information security world we would have a timeout. I'm pretty sure that we moved around that for ADS specifically, and I'm imagining that our external DRS addresses that. Do you know, Fairness, if it's there?
Jamie, I will have to take another look, so that as I'm saying, we took a look and it will be it will not be time.
Your line is now muted.
Specific issues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So as we are on the market simulation, and as we will be deploying the new ADS. So obviously, new ADS UI will be also working in parallel with the ADS API. So whenever we deploy the new ADS in any environment, our basic API will be retired. And at the same time, we will be introducing the ADS API V8.
Your line is now unmuted.
Any new functionality, what we are covering on the DOT project or our ADS replacement enhancement and the IDS, any of this functionality will be only available on the ADS API V8 only. So what we are saying that we will be supporting ADS API V7 for backward compatibility. So during this time, you will be able to use two API, which is one for ADS API V7 and V8. Please note again, for your all new functionality, only V8, ADS V8, API V8 will be supported. So all those artifacts for V8, you can always find it in our developer.kaiso.com. So yeah, while we are on the ADS API V8, we had some changes. Can you please go to the next slide, Christina? Yeah, so we updated our V8 artifact. Thank you all who sent your feedback, and that is really helpful. And with those feedback, we were able to make this correction, and the latest things has been posted in our developer.kaiso.com site. So to be specific, the update we have made for XSD V8 API is we added the resource bid option element. So in our text spec for V8 API, the PDF document, we mentioned that this is a new element. However, this was not available in our XSD. So we got this feedback from several of you, and then we added and posted it. Along with that, we also noticed by ourselves there was a slight discrepancy when for the new WSDL, it was pointing to for the V7 endpoint. So we also made that correction. So for latest information, please visit our developer.kaiso.com for our V8 latest artifact. Thank you, Christina. So this slide we're intending mainly for the parallel operation and parallel timeline window. This is what we are planning for now, that September, for the full September month, starting from beginning and through the end. And for parallel operation, we'll be using the stage environment. So during that time, we'll be streaming the data from the production environment. So you will have an option to verify this data set using the UI as well as by API for the both version, what we will be supporting V7 and V8. As I mentioned earlier, when we are deploying the new code in this environment, ADS API V6 will be retired. So here is one more thing I would like to touch base on, that during this parallel operation, as the data will be same, you will be able to use the new ADS new ADS UI, which is a web-based ADS, as well as you will be also able to use our old client, the Delphi client. So for the data verification, you will be using also the production data. As same data will be streaming into the stage, so you can look into the three-way comparison you can do at the same time, like production client as well as the stage client for old client and the new client simultaneously. And here again, for the entrance and exit criteria, we will go to the parallel operation once we successfully complete the market simulation. And once there is no unresolved issues that are critical for our go live, that will be our exit criteria. Thank you. For production, we will go live on October 1st. And as I mentioned, this entrance criteria is a successful parallel operation. And we will be communicating the deployment window separately when we are ready for deployment. But during the deployment, one thing to note here is you might see some reconnection issues that is applicable only for those current ADS users who are using Delphi client. So that reconnection issues may occur for the Delphi client. At the same time, we were using this APIs. There may be some request timeout error, and we don't expect that error to go more than 5 minutes. So it will be approximately for a 5-minute window that error might happen. So here again, once we are in the production deployment, this window will be communicated separately so that our customers can minimize the impact. Thank you, Christina. So there we are covering the hard cutover activity for our old client, which is the Delphi client. So until that hard cutover, we will be supporting the old client as well as our new client. So you'll be able to use both simultaneously. But the day we cutover for the Delphi client, it will stop working, and only the new ADS will be the point of source, and you can use the new ADS only. So as in a high level, the cutover dates are here. For simulation environment, we will keep that client live until after our market simulation is ended, and we'll be doing the hard cutover for Delphi client for map stage and stage on November 4th, and then on the production we'll be doing after the January of next year, so which is February 1st. For those dates, please, again, we're requesting please follow the RAG for the latest information. And as Demi also mentioned earlier, that we're also looking for feedback. Please feel free to let us know if you think you need any of this beyond those days. Before I'm going to the next slide, I would like to cover the same message one more time, that before we are going to the production, that time will be very critical for your data validation. Please make sure during parallel operation you are doing all those for all those dispatch instruction validation, because that is the time you will have option to do the three-way validation using your old client and the new client in stage environment. At that time, this will be receiving the data from the production, so production-like data. And at the same time, we will be accessing, obviously, the production client and the old client. So data and the quality, all three should be very similar. So this is the parallel operation window is very critical, and I would like to request one more time, please do all of your validation at that time as much as possible. Thank you. For ADS API basics, cutover date to the deprecation, as I mentioned earlier, it will be done as we deploy the new code into each environment. So as per our current plan, we will be deploying the new code in the map stage environment for market simulation on July 27, then for parallel operation on September 1st, and then on production on October 1st.
So with that, I'll pass the control to the Prince. Prince, can you please?
Sure. Thanks, Ferdos. Before that, do we want to take questions that we have, and then we can get into this part?
Sure. Yeah.
It looks like we have two questions.
Oh, good. Thank you. And just a reminder to press pound 2 to raise your hand. So go ahead, Victor.
Caller, please state your name and question.
Hi, this is Chanula from PG&E. Hi, everyone. Could you guys go back to page 10? Could you go back to page 10? So I get a little confused. Yeah, I get a little confused here. So previously you communicated this is going to go live November 4, and now it's going live October 1. What is the difference? It looks like some dates here still pretty much the same. And then also you have the production S21. So I guess I'm a little confused.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Chinyu, thank you for that question. Let me try and explain what we're trying to do here. We're talking on this slide about the hard cutover for Delphi, which means our current existing ADS application. So the goal is that we want to be in getting out of market simulation by the end of, by 9/4. But we're not going to cut off the Delphi client in map stage till 2 months after that. Similarly, we're going to be in parallel operations in stage till the end of September, but we're not going to kill or sunset the Delphi client in stage till 11/4. And similarly in production, though we're looking to go live in production with the new client on 10/1, there will still be over 3 months, or actually 4 months, and all the way till 2/1, where both the Delphi client and the ADS new client will be available in production simultaneously. And then on 2/1/2021, we intend to sunset or completely cut off the Delphi client. And so you will have only the new UI from 2/1 onwards. Does that help? So there's a little bit of an overlap period where you will have both of those, and we will take away the Delphi client after we've exited market sim. We'll take it away about 2 months later in map stage. After we've exited parallel operations in stage, we will take it away about a month later. But for production, after we've gone live, we'll give you another 4 months to familiarize yourself or whatever other reasons to cut over before we take away the Delphi client.
Thanks. So yeah, because the Delphi client is the current ADS, as you mentioned. So as October 1, let me just play this out. Maybe try to. As the October 1, the production will have the new ADS UI, where the parallel operation, which is the stage, will continue to have the Delphi client until November 4, correct? So basically you do have 2 stage production and the stage parallel. One will have the new and one will have the Delphi client. Correct?
Right. Okay. So let me try and reword it just to make sure that we're talking the same thing here. On 7/27, we will deploy the new version of the UI, the new ADS UI into map stage. At that point in map stage, you will have both the existing current Delphi client as well as the new ADS. And so we will stay that way all the way until 11/4 in map stage. However, on 9/4, we're saying that we have completed the market simulation exercise. Even though the tool will continue to exist in that environment, from a project perspective, we would have moved on from that phase, the market simulation phase, and say that we're entering into parallel operations. So parallel operations will start on I believe, is it 9-1 sort of? I think the date.
Yes, Prince. Yes, 9-1.
Thank you. So on 9-1, we will have parallel operations in stage commence. At that point, you will have in stage environment both the Delphi client as well as the new ADS UI. It will stay that way all the way until 11.4. However, on 9:30, we would consider from a project perspective that we are no longer in a parallel operations phase of that project. And on 10.1, we intend to go live in production with a new UI. And then in production, we will have both the versions of the application between the Delphi clients and the new one all the way until 2.1. The dates that we're seeing here are the dates on which we intend to take away the Delphi client in a specific environment. So as you can see, we're keeping it in map stage for 2 months after we finish market simulation. We're going to keep it in parallel operation in stage environment for another month after we finish parallel operations. And we're going to keep it in production for 4 months from the day we've actually deployed our new ADS into you guys. And the goal of going through this exercise for each of the environments is so that on 11.5, you can see how your experience would be in map stage if you had only the new UI and you did not have the current Delphi client. Does that help? So that it kind of simulates for you, oh, in production, this is what it's going to be like, where you do not have a Delphi client to rely on, and you would only rely on the new ADS client.
Right. That helps a lot, actually, Prince. Thank you. And I really like the the way that the layout you just explained. That works really well. So that means in production, starting from October 1. So basically, it's a parallel for 4 months, like you mentioned.
Correct. And Ferdos mentioned to earlier also, in order for you to benefit from some of the new functions that are included as part of DOTT as well as with IDS and so on, those new features will be available only on the ADS API v8. So obviously we're not going to backport any of that functionality into the older versions of the API and so on. And same way with the new functions will be available only on the new UI, not on the older one.
Understand. Thank you. That explains very well.
Thank you. I think based off of that question, we may look to present the same information in a different slide, which kind of makes it a little bit more apparent as well. So I thank you for that question.
Yeah, we did get that request from Robert Acosta asking for a chronological calendar with that shows each of the applications and when they're active.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a good thing for us to do.
Okay. Victor, we have 3 more questions. Is that correct?
We do. Caller, please state your name and question.
Hi, this is Ray calling from PG&E. I just want to double check, since ADS is very close, it ties with DOT and IDS. Are all those initiatives now no longer part of the independent release or the fall release on November 4th, and they're all going into production on October 1st now? Just to confirm.
So this is Jamie. I can speak to that. Definitely look for updates in the rug, but what should be coming or probably has been announced is that DOT will go with ADS on 10.1, and IDS will be moving out to a later time. But so that'll be ADS will be in place and already prepared for IDS when it becomes active. So I don't know. I don't know if they've announced that in the rug yet, but IDS has moved out to January 1st, 2021.
No, I think the last time we've heard anything was during the MPPF.
Okay. So yeah, probably is Tuesday in the release user group, and that update will come.
That's correct, Jamie.
Any other questions, Rez?
We do.
Okay.
And caller, please state your name and question.
Yes, hi, this is Nyasha McLaren with Puget Sound Energy. Can you show slide 11 again? I think I just missed it. I need to see that again. Yes, thank you. I did miss that. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Oh, sure. Any other questions, Victor?
We do have one more question here. Okay. I call it. Please state your name and question.
Yes, this is Justin Wolf from Pacific Corp. My question's related to another CAISO implementation, the application delivery resiliency, which is the URL change. I know ADS has a, at least the API has a different API URL than the other ones. How does that integration project run in parallel to this ADS change? Are these changes going to be using a different URL for the API, or is that a separate process?
Christina, I can do this. Yes, that will be the separate process, and we'll be communicating that separately. So please be engaged with our tag call. So we'll be announcing those details in the tag first before we communicate in the RAG or any other forum. So yes, those will be definitely in a different process, not tied to this project.
Okay, so for most of this cutover, all the URLs are going to remain exactly the same, or is there the possibility that we're also going to need to change the URLs for during this process as well?
No, not now. You don't have to change, but yes, later once we initiate that other one, you will need to change. But that will be also communicating in advance, and you all will have enough opportunity to migrate those. So what I'm trying to communicate here is this is a two different process, and we'll be doing it separately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions, Victor?
There are no more questions at this time.
Okay, Prince, you're up.
All right. So at the last CPG that we had in the April timeframe, we talked about the query tool data retention. Our externally posted version of the BRS mentions that the ADS replacement project will shift the data retention period of our ADS query tool to becoming a 30-day retention period. However, at the last CPG back in April, we heard feedback from several participants asking us to extend that period. We also had written and phone conversations with certain participants who wanted to engage further on that discussion. And we heard use cases that required that we provide up to 92 days of data within the query tool. And we're currently going through a very structured process on our own side to evaluate if we can do that. So we heard you, we heard your use cases, we understand what the need is. And so we're really trying on our end to see if we can extend and provide coverage beyond the 92 days at this point. So I just wanted to make sure everybody got an update that is going on. We do not have final word yet, but we are very close on that. All right. And thank you, Christina. And then briefly to touch upon the stage application preview, I think we already talked about this, but I'll just talk to it again. We had initially thought about providing the stage application preview in early July, but since then, for the reasons that we talked about earlier as well, we've decided that we would not do that and instead start with a market simulation directly in map stage beginning 7/27, and that release will have obviously the new UI, and on top of it, it will also include the enhancements that we're putting in place to support DOTT and the IDS project scope as well. So just wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to see that update as well. So, yep, that's what I have. Any further thoughts or questions anyone would have?
Yeah, that's the end of the presentation. So we do have time for questions, plenty of time. So if you do have a question, you can raise your hand by pressing pound 2.
I don't see any questions coming in at the moment.
Okay. So if you do have questions, okay, go ahead and open it up, and then I'll go over this slide.
Caller, please state your name and question.
Hi, this is Rhett from SCE. I have a question about the data retention. So, yeah, great. So it looks like in best case scenario that it'll be 92 days worth of data, which means that when we go live, there'll be about 2.5 years of data that disappears. So we've been working with our vendor to try to figure out how to grab that 2.5 years of data. And it doesn't seem like there's any API methods to do that. If there is, could you point us to how you want us to do that, to grab all that historical data, or just kind of help read us into what the thinking is there?
So for downloading the data, query tool is available now, right? So from the query tool, we should be able to use, I think we can utilize the query tool to download the data from your end. For API has the capability to download the data. Those also not for, especially for the trajectory, other than trajectory, you should, I think API will give you options to download this data as well. But those format would be a little different. So easiest option is to download directly from the query tool, and that should support your needs.
So downloading from the query tool isn't really an option. You can only request 1 month at a time, and you can only do it 1 resource at a time. So with 400 resources and 2.5 months worth of data to go, I don't think that's really an option. And then the second question about being able to do it API-wise, we couldn't find any way. Essentially what we want to do is replicate how we ask the query tool. So we want to query past dispatches by date for all resources, and we don't see any way to do that. All we've been able to discover is you can, get all dispatches from, given a batch ID forward, and doing that for, 2.5 years would be rather burdensome. So we're looking for a way to get the old data.
Yeah, so using that API, like get the batch ID, I think we support only for 24 hours, last 24 hours. If this batch ID is beyond 24 hours, then that will also always return you the batch only for the last 24-hour batch ID. But API, you should support you to go like for a particular one batch ID if you want to get the data. It should still support you up to last 3 years. You should go and the API will support to download the data for 3 years for one batch ID at a time. And I think I hear you what you were saying. That is also not like, to do that you have to do it like for each batch at a time, and it will be a time-consuming process. So we can discuss this in our offline and see Prince or Jimmy if we can have like some data dump or something, if there we have any other options. I know that most of our users has very few resources, so they will be able to utilize the query tool. But I hear you who have like lots of resources. For them, it will be a time conversion.
Yeah, Rhett, if you can submit a video ticket on, we'll definitely communicate through that vehicle and probably have another call.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, one more question, Victor?
We do have 2 more in the queue here.
2?
Caller,
okay.
please state your name and question.
This is Michael Park-Summons. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Go ahead, Michael.
Just a quick question here. So what efforts or how are all of the market participants going to be aware of this timeline? Obviously, we always get to a point where people, as we get closer to it, only then realize what's happening. So how vocal is the CISO going to be about this coming down the pipeline?
So this is Jamie. This information is communicated through the release user group, and I think most people know to go there to get schedule information. I'm imagining, maybe there's some additional outreach that we can do working with the customer experience team in Bronto to get messages out as we're approaching different dates. But definitely for like the development activities and Cutover, people should be participating in the release user group for that. Did you have something in mind, like specifically what types of events are you wanting us to be more vocal on?
I mean, we can notify our customers as well of it, but I just wanted to say, like, give them a heads up as well, maybe something more directly coming from you instead of them. I don't know how frequently that they participate in the calls, and so I'm sure if something came from CISO that they would take that a bit more seriously. So that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take that back and think on it. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Victor, you said we have one more in the queue?
We do have one last question here. Caller, please state your name and question.
Hi, this is Chen Yu from PG&E. One more question is regarding to the data retention. Prince mentioned that you guys are working towards to 92 days. When do you know for sure that you can implement that?
Hey, Chen Yu. We're currently going through and internally evaluating what that would mean from a performance perspective, what that would mean from a data storage perspective, and so on. We're close, but not ready to confirm that yet. If I had to put some kind of a date around it, I would say that we'll look to give an update on this before we get into market sim. So the market simulation starting at 7/27. So at least by that time, we will give you an update in terms of where we are, or if we need, say, a few more days or something like that, we will definitely give you an update.
That's great. And thank you so much for you guys putting on the CPG for all the questions.
Sure. And thank you for participating.
Any other questions, Victor?
At this time, there are no more questions.
Okay. Well, as always, if you do have any follow-up questions or any topics that you'd like to discuss during this forum, you can either contact your client representative or also submit a city ticket. And for regular updates, we also encourage you to attend other forums such as the RUG, TUG, and associated trainings. So we really appreciate your participation and your feedback today. And thanks again for joining. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using AT&T Event Conferencing Enhanced. You may now disconnect.